Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khush amdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, ishpata.
Bakhair agale, ni hao, tune shumme, washmale, ohai gunzaimis, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasalan marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, suavia, balli kere aya. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You watching World this morning alongside the very fantastic, the very amazing, the very superb, the very talented, the very intellectually strong, the very character building sort of personality. Ladies and gentlemen, she happens to be Ms. Shiza Hashmi and I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan. We hope and pray that everybody out there in 46 different countries is ready to kickstart their day with us. Hello Shiza, how are you doing today?
Thank you so much for asking. I'm doing absolutely great. How about you? And again, thank you so much for the kind words, as usual.
Thank you very much. I think I feel great as well. But ladies and gentlemen, obviously, since it's a very important day in Shiza's life, I believe that
it's a Wednesday.
It's a very important day in our lives as well. And for everybody who's out there, we definitely are going to sing a song to Shiza. But that is something which we are going to do towards the end of the program. But right now, I think I'm going to wish you happy birthday, a very happy Hajj day.
Thank you.
May you get all the success you always wanted. May you prosper. And may you find peace wherever you go.
Ameen.
Happy birthday once again.
Thank you so much,
and
man.
if you want me to sing you the song, I can sing you the song as well.
Well, should we save it for the last? Because
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to do the entire song because, well, my co-host over here loves singing.
I will do it. Oh my
Mashallah,
God.
so good at
I
it.
think today what you need to do is that you
Shazad.
really need to give this gift to our audiences and sing them a song just because it's your birthday as well. But how do you feel? Yeah, I'm not going to ask you which birthday it is, but
You know
obviously
about it.
you've been around for somewhat 2 decades, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and so how do you feel whenever it's your birthday? That's something I wanted to ask.
How do I feel? Okay, so if I'm being very honest, of course, like a lot of other people and a lot of other Virgos, I used to be super excited about my birthdays.
Yeah.
In a way, so not just about mine, about every single person in my life, I feel like they have this one day which is so important throughout the year.
Yep.
And can I tell you something, you guys? If you have a friend or a sibling who says, "Oh, please, meri birthday pe kuch na karna," they don't mean it. It's that one day where everyone wants to feel important. So I absolutely love the concept of birthdays. And even for the people that I don't know, I do somehow, and if I know it's their birthday, I do somehow do something for them. I love birthdays.
Wow, that's wonderful. And for all those Virgos in my life and people I have known who are Virgos, ladies and gentlemen, they can actually go on or continue to celebrate their birthdays for weeks and months as well.
Every
They're like,
day.
okay, there's a cake coming early in the morning, then there's a cake at dinner time, then tomorrow they want another
Shazad,
surprise, and that's how they are.
And just last evening, just in the evening after 8 o'clock, I had 3 cakes at my place.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, and I just didn't know what to do with them
Yeah,
because
you
we
could have
just
sent
2
one to
people.
me.
You know what? I'm going to do that when I leave
Really?
today because I have a lot of them. And we're only 2 people at my home. Well, first of all, of course, thanks to Mama, my siblings, my husband, blah, 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 everyone.
Wow, that's wonderful. But I kind of wanted to talk over here, and that too about birthdays. And while we were growing up, obviously when we weren't working, we were kids. We were still living with our parents, which I am still. Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed to
Mashallah.
have actually been sharing my house with my parents as well. That is then that was the time when we used to celebrate. But eventually, for men, I think it just changes drastically. As soon as you start to work, nobody kind of cares that, oh, okay, yeah, but I mean, at times we do not even remember that it's our
Remember,
birthday today as well, yeah. So I don't know. I think for men, there's a very different concept, and for women, there's a very different concept.
But I would like to talk to men out there as well. Why not? I mean, there's one day that you have to, and you should feel special, and why shouldn't you?
Yeah.
So please, I mean, don't be that person who's like, oh, acha kuch nahi hota,
And
it's
that too
just
on that
another
day where you know that you've actually lived another year over here in this month as well.
Alhamdulillah, right? I mean, you
Alhamdulillah.
really have to be grateful.
Exactly.
One very sweet thing, I feel like it's cultural as well, it's very Pakistani as well, it's religious as well. So whenever it's our birthday, all of us siblings, whoever's birthday it is, well, of course, while we used to have parties because it's also a military sort of thing, unit wale sare ikatthe hote the and stuff, right? But it's a thing, moms are the cutest, Shazad. They would spend hours doing nafal for you, right?
Right, yeah,
Praying for you and just being there on the Janamaz, just praying for the prosperity of their child. It's just so beautiful. And I
Exactly.
feel like this kind of genuine love or care coming from someone actually does change a lot.
That's so true. And it's because of the fact that I've literally seen my mother doing that for all of
That is
us
so
as well.
sweet.
Even when we're leaving from our houses, every single morning, my mother, my father would step outside. They would wave to me, say their goodbyes, and I could see them doing this. Chew.
Huh?
So this chew,
Cute.
ladies and gentlemen, gives you a lot of confidence as well.
Absolutely.
And thanks to all of those parents who are out there for, kind of giving us whatever we wanted in life and kind of sacrificing on whatever you required at that point of time
True,
as well. So
true.
thank you very much to everybody and happy Hatch Day to you once again.
Thank you, Shazad. But ladies and gentlemen, today happens to be the 15th of September for all of those who didn't make it out yet. It is very important
It
in
is.
the realm of the world as well, Shazad.
Yeah.
Well, of course, for two reasons. First of all, you all were blessed with me. Second of all, well, if we talk about, all the nations and all the states existing together, Shazad, this has been a topic of discussion or, just people sitting together and trying to understand this ever since the first human existed.
Exactly.
Because there have to be rules and laws of how the world is going to operate when the power is so diluted. And by that, I mean everyone has it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just that one, the word is not bipolar or just, unipolar anymore. It is so super polarized and everyone is fighting for that particular thing. But then scholars were like, hey, you know what? I feel like when we talk about states, people who run the states or actually make the laws should be chosen by people who live
Yeah.
in that state.
True.
So this is how the first concept of democracy first ever came into being. And it actually dates back to not our own religion. And when, we always learn about the governance of Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu anhu, or our own prophet and his, companions as well, it dates even back further to when Plato even existed and, stuff like that.
Exactly.
So thousands and thousands of years.
Wow.
So today we are talking about democracy, how it is prevalent in today's world, as it happens to be World Democracy Day, declared by the UNGA, of course, back in 2007.
Exactly.
Do you
And,
want to say something, or
yes,
should we go to the
observed.
report?
Yeah, yeah. I actually wanted to add and observe for the very first time in 2008 as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that today is the day where today we need to gather, because for the, if you look at the previous themes for the previous years as well, we have had stronger democracies, how to make democracy a better place for people to as well, and then
Yes.
how strengthening communities so that we actually participate in democratic activities and all of that. But I think that today, when we gather over here, we need to kind of revisit where we actually say that of the people, by the people, and for
Yes.
the people. Is it literally happening in the newer world order? Is something which we want to discuss today, or the state of democracy overall within this world? How is it existent? What are the concerns? And how can we make it better? So we actually have a report to share with you guys. Go ahead, take a listen. Once you guys will come back, we have the perfect guest to kind of talk about how he sees the state of democracy in the world today. Good morning.
Democracy provides an environment for the protection and effective realisation of human rights. Democracy provides good governance, monitors elections, supports civil society to strengthen democratic institutions and accountability, ensures self-determination in decolonised countries, and assists in the drafting of new constitutions in post-conflict nations. The values of freedom, respect for human rights, and the principle of holding periodic and genuine elections by universal suffrage are essential elements of democracy. In turn, democracy provides the natural environment for the protection and effective realisation of human rights. Pakistan is constitutionally a democratic parliamentary republic with its political system based on an elective form of governance. However, in past history, there have been deviations from democracy in the form of military coups and political uncertainty. Democracy is as much a process as a goal, and only with the full participation of and support by the international community, national governing bodies, civil society and individuals can the ideal of democracy be made into reality to be enjoyed by everyone everywhere.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so you've heard it loud and clear as well, and where we actually kind of talked about concerns. So obviously, when we kind of come down to that, people controlling the flow of information, detention or arrest of journalists, doctors, healthcare, lawyers, or probably ousting of the opponents as well, the political
Yes.
opponents, and then
Rigged elections.
yes, obviously, and not just that. When we come down to where we need to develop, obviously, we need to kind of talk about equality over here, training journalists to develop media literacy, information and disinformation, and how to kind of draw the line in between. So very quickly, without a further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by one of the most amazing professors I've had over here on my show. He is a professor from NAS. He is Mr. Zamir Awan. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir,
you,
for
sir.
joining us. It's wonderful to have you. The day is very important world over, these days. I mean, if in fact today, if you're going to tune into any news channel, everybody's saying, hey, we are observing World Democracy Day. It's good. to observe something is amazing, but have we observed it that far that we can review the state of democracy in the world as of today? So please.
Let me start with this. Before the democracy, it was the kingdoms and the empires.
Yep.
And some of the kings and emperor were excellent and outstanding.
Yep.
They have performed very well. They loved their people. They have worked for the welfare of their people, and they were very famous and very respected. But with the passage of time, their children inherited, the grandchildren, and after a couple of generations, incompetent and irresponsible or corrupt kings were appearing because of inheritance from their elders. And they were not respected in the society. The people don't like the corrupt and incompetent people. If they are not people friendly, they will not like. Then the democracy was the solution at that time. In the early days of the democracy, many countries delivered very well, and democracy was accepted, not only accepted but welcomed. The best examples are America and the Western Europe. They followed the democratic basic principles, and they developed their economies, and the people were happy. Unfortunately, with the passage of time, democracy also got eroded. Look, Modi, an extremist, a fascist, a fanatic, has been elected as a result of democracy. Similarly, I can give you many examples, and some of the democratically elected leaders in America and Europe really is not up to that mark. So once it is deteriorating, there are many, many questions in our minds. Even that in some of the Eastern cultures, some democratically elected leaders like Egypt, President Hosni Mubarak was used to get 99.99% votes.
Yeah.
But how is it possible? I mean, we have seen the decay of democracy, erosion of democracy. Simultaneously, we have seen the rise of China, which is not a democratic country. The people of China are very happy. The highest rate purchasing power is in China.
Yep.
The highest prosperity is in China. The highest rate of satisfaction and happiness is in China, which is not a democratic country. So there are many, many questions.
And sir, adding on to this, I'm actually going to give you a prevalent example as well. For example, if we talk about Russia, we talk about Turkey, I think that, if we are to talk about democracy, how come that, that for the longest period of time they've had their leaders in that position as well, even though that the countries are progressing and developing. So do you think that if a country is developing and progressing, actually we shouldn't be disturbing it, or do you think that we really need to go by the democratic way?
I think I believe in democracy, so I will argue for that one.
Okay.
But I don't think that is the ultimate solution.
Okay.
Because in democracy, we have seen many, many countries are collapsing, are deteriorating.
Yep.
In Eastern Europe, or in some of the
Latin America especially.
yes, there are countries which are collapsing, and there are many, many severe problems. So democracy is not the ultimate solution.
Why do you stand with it?
Because I believe comparatively with other systems, democracy is still acceptable.
Okay.
But we have to work hard and refine it and reform it. Nowadays, the practice is that as long as you have the money, either it is the black money or the white money, you can buy the votes, and you are elected, and you head a country. And
Exactly.
irrespective, you are corrupt, you are incompetent, you are selfish, you are greedy, whatever is you, but you have money, you can be elected.
Exactly.
That's something wrong. We have to improve the democratic
Procedures.
and the process, and we refine it.
True.
Right, and thank you so much for bringing this up, sir, because this was definitely, I want this to be the direction of our conversation as well. So there was a newer term for me, because of course I like to learn and read, and this was the first time I came across democratic backsliding, right? So, which to me, of course, occurred like a deteriorating term for democracy, whatever's happening. And it spoke of three different reasons. And one of them was actually where you said that accountability for politicians is vanishing. While people will try to choose or vote for the person that they want to see in power, but there is no system or forms to actually question that person if something does or does not happen. Could you explain democratic backsliding? And if you do believe in it, that it is deteriorating, what are some of the factors that you might have identified?
In fact, let me talk about in the perspective of Pakistan.
Please.
In Pakistan, the public has no awareness of democracy. I always believe and I always promote that we have to educate our voters. The day when our voter know the worth of his vote, the destiny of our country will change.
Of course, I
Currently,
agree.
what is happening, we believe that if this politician has made this drainage system in my hometown or has built some road into my village
water cooler.
or he has provided me a job, or if I have any problem with the police, he has helped me, he has rescued me, this is the only criteria. And we are voting for those people who are not capable, who are not competent, who are greedy, who are corrupt, and who are working for their own betterment, for own prosperity. They are not thinking about the national prosperity or
Right.
national causes. So the day when we decide that we have to vote to a person who is capable, who has mind, who is sincere and loyal, and reflect my problem in the cabinet, in the National Assembly, he will make legislation which is useful for me. He will do the things which is useful for the masses, not only limited to him or his family. The country will change. We give our vote to people who decide our destiny, our fate, and they are not capable. So it is more important that we educate the voters. And I don't belong to any political party.
Okay.
And I will not recommend to vote for this party or that party. But I request to my audience that please, before voting, you should think either this person is capable to represent you in the National Assembly, he will make the legislation in your interest, he will look after your welfare. We have to think in these terms. Above the family politics or brotherly politics or domestic politics, we have to think in a different manner. Then we can strengthen the democracy. We can elect the right people and they will make the right decision and right policies, and then Pakistan will prosper.
Exactly. And sir,
Very
adding on
right.
to that way, Shiza actually talked about democracy backsliding or democratic backsliding as well, which apparently looks like a backdoor channel to me as well, obviously, where, you know, the opposition parties are going to come together, you know, form a coup, and then obviously they talk about ousting of the sitting government. Now, when we talk about such a coup, the problem over here is that we have casted our votes willingly to whoever is in power, right? Imagine all the opposition parties coming together without the consent of the entire population and saying, hey, you know what, you guys really need to leave now, and it's about time that we kind of move into or probably move towards another election. That is actually a DACA on my vote, you know, for
Yes.
the opposition parties to come together and say, hey, you know what, you really need to leave. I mean, we have given them the vote, which is why they're in power. How do we kind of curb this menace as well? Because this is very much existent within our own country.
Yes.
I think that we, the educationists, have a responsibility to educate the voters. It is a huge job. It is not a one single person job. Collectively, we can educate the voters and we can achieve the desired results.
Exactly. So,
Well,
which is
that
why,
is-
you know,
yeah.
I think it's about time that we kind of talk about all of those things which are a concern for any democracy all over the world. So, sir, first up, you know, controlling the flow of information.
In fact, flow of information is controlled all over the world. In America, in Europe, in the most developed and democratic countries, there is also rules and regulation and restriction on the flow of information.
Through state channels only, right?
Even that the private channels are informally asked to follow the state policies, and if they don't follow the state policies, the government will not give them the advertisements or incentives or squeeze them on the tax or
Right.
other. There are many ways to coerce private channels.
Which is why, sir, I'm going to add on over here because you gave an example of China, and alhamdulillah, we have seen China progressing. They do not have a single private channel over there.
In fact, China is a different type of democracy.
Is
China,
it a democracy though?
yes, because I lived in China for a long time, I have seen the Chinese political system. I have penetrated into the system itself, and I noticed that there is a democracy, but that democracy is limited. That democracy is different from the Western democracy. One vote for each head. Either you are a ignorant, you are a under matric, you are a PhD, you are a postdoc, you are a scholar, you are whatsoever. Each vote has the same worth. But in China, it is not like that. Chinese system is more close to the Islamic system. That is, we call it shura in Islamic system. Shura means that among the shura, there is a democracy. The shura has the right to argue something and build consensus by vote within that limited scope. The Communist Party of China is also doing the same thing. The Politburo and the local government, there is a democracy within the shura or elected councils like Politburo. People are free to argue anything, give any opinion, and if the consensus are built on something, everybody have to agree. It is different from the Western democracy. But of course, in China, people have the different opinion and they argue for that one.
But that opinion is not being voiced now, sir, when you do not have a private channel.
It is not the matter of the private channel. It is the matter that once they have decided something, built based on the consensus, only the consensus built thing will come out. During the course of discussion, who have ever different opinion is no important.
Exactly, and this is something which obviously is beneficial for you when you know that everything is going to go in the right direction.
In your favor,
and
actually.
obviously, this is something which we have seen for China happening. And to be very honest, I mean, they're one of the most amazing countries in the world as of now
Today,
as well. So
yes.
whoever kind of had a disagreement, they might be happy at heart that, hey, you know what, we're still
It
going in the
turned
right
out well,
direction. Yeah.
Right. But also to have that courage to accept where you were wrong as well.
Yeah.
But now, you know what, sir, of course, during this discussion, you and Shahzad both have sort of established this, and we all know that when we talk about democracy, one of its most realistic attributes is that not everyone will be happy.
True.
I mean, that is democracy because...
But everybody wants to be happy. That's why it's democracy.
No, but by that I mean, like you said, that
Yeah.
even if 90% of the people are going to vote for one, the 10% are still there who did not vote for those people. And throughout the term, those 10% might be, well, of course, first of all, expanding in number, maybe decreasing in number as well, but continuously questioning the existing government as well. But now I really, sort of drifted away from my point. I cannot recall it. But sir, talking about this particular fact that democracy, even if its most perfect terms, cannot please everyone. And especially, yes, now I remember, this pandemic actually posed a huge threat to democracies, not only over here in this region or third world countries for that matter, all over the world. What are some of the issues you saw that the pandemic actually posed towards democracy?
It's just social and political, right?
Yeah, of course. Massively economic issues. And also, do you think that this is probably that phase in time where when authoritarianism was converting into democracy, probably in one way or another, now we have to turn from democracy to what? Is it that time?
No, I don't think this in this way.
Okay.
Still, democracy is valid.
Okay.
But there is a need to refine it and improve it.
Okay.
It is just like that you have a very good mobile phone,
Okay.
but if you are not good to operate it, you don't have the understanding of this mobile phone, you cannot get the maximum benefit.
Okay.
The important thing is that whom we are electing, it is a democratic process, and if we have elected the right people, they will deliver.
Okay.
If we have elected the bad people, corrupt people, then of course it is disaster.
But about the pandemic, do you think it actually did sort of alter democracy?
In fact, in pandemic, China is the role model. They
It's
have
always
the
been the role.
minimum casualties. The fatality rate was less than 2%.
Okay.
And China was, in fact, China was the first country who noticed the COVID-19.
Yes.
And at that time, there was a very little knowledge about the COVID.
True.
So the Chinese have worked double.
Exactly.
First thing, they have diagnosed and researched what is the nature of this virus, what is the genomics, and what is the behavior. They noticed it is contagious. Then they implemented the policies. Contagious means that it is spreading from one person to other person easily. So they formulated the policy how to isolate the people, quarantine the people, how to suppress it, how to fight against it, and they've succeeded.
Exactly.
The rest of the world was lucky that especially after China, it was America and some European countries. When it reached there, they have plenty of knowledge about the genomics of virus.
Exactly.
They have plenty of time to take preventive measures before it spreads so badly. Unfortunately, their focus was bashing China, blaming China,
Yeah.
countering China,
That's true.
resisting the China's rise,
True.
and they ignored preventive measures. And ultimately, they were the worst affected people.
Exactly. And, sir, kind of adding on to that as well, since we are talking about democracy, and thank you very much for kind of sharing it with the rest of the world as well, that obviously it is because of China that we were able to kind of learn about
Yes.
COVID as well. But, sir, now coming down to one more important aspect, and this is something which I've seen ever since I've been growing. Alhamdulillah. So whenever it has been an election time, and the election campaigns are on, you would always hear every other political leader bashing their opponents as well, and this is something which we see all over the world as well, and it's pretty much normal. But what happens is that, that the ousting of all of these people, or probably detention of these people, actually weakens the democratic process as well, so whoever is going to be in power will actually in the first place go after all of their opponents.
Right.
And what I have seen ever since I've been growing up is something that, every time they will use all of these techniques to kind of get their vote bank, but they would never I have never seen any political figure behind the bars. All I've seen is that they have either fled away from the country, and then when the time was right, they got back into power as well. So what kind of democracy are we talking about anyway? Is it existent?
It is really eroded or very bad form of the democracy in our country. We need to form some ethics and some rules and regulation during the campaign, during the
Yes.
election period.
Exactly.
And of course, state is there to implement these rules and regulations. Of course, still I will say it is the most important end user is the voter itself.
Exactly.
So the quality of voter we have to improve, we have to educate. And this is
Exactly.
a heavy task.
I like
And,
this.
and, and to do so, sir, we actually have a very amazing next segment as well. But thank you very much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you over here on the program, and that too on such an important topic.
Thank
I
you so
feel as
much.
if that we could have done an entire show.
Yeah.
But obviously, because the education of the voter is important, the next segment is important as well. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
to have you, and for everybody who's out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that democracy, just like sir, that democracy is the way forward. But we kind of really need to revisit the state of democracy and then kind of come up with solutions, or all of those concerns really need to be kind of practically implemented, so that we can see a better version of ourselves and the governments which are there due to democracy.
Absolutely, and I think we have to take this note forward in the next segment as well, where the voter is actually the main stakeholder and also the main beneficiary.
True.
What can we do to make that voter actually the agent of change? Let's
Exactly.
see. Stay tuned. Good morning.
Good morning.
The Vassal Mosque is the largest mosque in Pakistan. Located in the national capital city of Islamabad. Completed in 1986, it was designed by Turkish architect Vedat Daloke to be shaped like a desert Bedouin's tent. It is situated at the north end of Vassal Avenue, putting it at the northernmost end of the city and the foot of the Margala Hills, the westernmost foothills of the Himalayas. It is located on an elevated area of land against a picturesque backdrop of the Margala Hills.
Welcome back to Well This Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we were learning about democracy
Yep.
and how the prevalent state of democracy is, not only in our country but in the entire world. And we left on a very important note that to educate the voter is actually how we can achieve the best form of democracy ever witnessed.
True.
Now, when we talk about education, how do you think we can achieve that?
Okay, you know, first things first, obviously education, the schools really need to play an important role as well. But for me, I think I'm going to refer back to where, you know, I was in my university and, you know, I actually had an assignment to do on democracy as well.
Oh.
So, you know, I went to a lot of other teachers and then they gave me the names of different books where I actually finally had to kind of land into my own library. I was like, okay, you know, I need to look for references, and that's how I kind of prepared for my assignment as well. So I believe that libraries, or other than that, you know, if we are to learn about democracy, education will play a vital role, but it is for us to kind of do our own research as well.
Yes, and by library, just to add over here, I think by libraries we want to establish that access to knowledge.
Exactly.
Access to knowledge can be different forms, right? But yes, libraries are the main form of access to knowledge.
Exactly. There used to be, even back then, well, while we were in our university days as well,
Yeah.
because there was this transition of internet. The internet existed. I'm not that old, yeah. But still, then at the same time, you know, there were different ways of kind of doing your own research and then bringing up references. Just like in the court, you know, you go to any court and, you know, the lawyer you've hired will always come up with a reference case that, hey, sir, you know, this happened 20 years ago and this was the judgment passed. So something like that. You really need to back your research up. And libraries used to kind of help us in that way as well. May it be our dissertation, may it be our thesis or anything, we actually had to go to libraries. But now, these days, Shiza, the question is, which is everybody asking, and that is that, are libraries important? Do you think that the libraries really need to exist, or we have moved from that phase and it is harder for people who probably be, 20 years more older than me, because they have actually had a part of life which they spent in libraries?
I feel like this question actually will be best answered by librarians themselves, because I feel like they have definitely sort of spent some time in establishing this very institution.
Yep.
And then in today's world, when things are changing, let's ask them if they believe things are changing or not.
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by the Chief Librarian of Nast University as well. He happens to be Dr. Midradullah Sahab, sir. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum, good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Sir, thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. And alongside Dr. Midrad, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by an author, a library officer as well. He happens to be Mr. Abid Hussain. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you, Shahzad. Thank you for inviting us over here to express our views about the importance of libraries. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to
Thank
have
you,
you. So,
Sheila,
Dr.
as
Saab, we'll get the conversation started with you. In today's time, are libraries important, or do you think that we can pretty much live even without libraries?
Thank you very much for inviting us on such an important topic.
Jazakallah khair.
On this important day,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Today is the World Democracy Day, and democracy and libraries has very strong connection.
Yep.
As we say, democracy is of the people, for the people, by the people.
True.
The same thing is said about the libraries. Libraries are of the people, by the people, for the people.
Very
So libraries are the basic essential requirement for the democracy. At its promote free mind. It's promote freedom of expression. What is the democracy? Democracy is the freedom of expression.
Freedom of speech, freedom
Critical,
of expression.
they create critical thinker. When you go to the library, read, if you are well-read person, you are well-behaved person, you are well-groomed person. So reading libraries and democracy has very strong connection.
Wonderful.
I think that was a very brilliant sort of link as well. I never
Exactly.
thought of it that way. Moving on to you, Mr. Abid, do you first of all agree with Dr. Saab over here? And then in your own terms, how would you explain in the 21st century the existing of a physical structure of a library?
Actually, these are parallel issues, 21st century libraries and library in conventional age. These are both have parallel. We
Okay.
cannot ignore the traditional library setup as well. In Pakistan, we are very lagging behind in information technology terms. So that's why in 21st century, we should run both sort of libraries, like in physical libraries and electronic libraries. So these should be existing.
Thank you very much for saying that. And you know, this is the direction forward as well, because sir, I'm going to put an example right in front of you. Imagine going back in 18th century, we walk into a classroom, we will see a blackboard, we will see chairs, and then we will see a teacher and a chalk in their hand as well. You go to a classroom today, that's exactly the same. But if you go back to 18th century, we actually had horse carts probably, or cow carts for that reason. But now we have Mustang, we have Ferraris, we have a lot of other things as well. So we've progressed quite a lot. But our classrooms have never progressed from that point A to point B as well. I mean, we might talk about presentations and projectors coming in, which obviously you get to see them when you only come in universities in Pakistan at least as well. So why do you think that there was so lack of attention towards our schooling systems, towards our education systems as well, and not just that, even our libraries?
Actually, libraries, the developed countries are more technologically advanced than us.
Exactly.
But they never give up the traditional libraries. In developed countries, they have public library at the distance of 3-4 kilometers.
Exactly.
And actually, the Todd Paul was an American teacher. He simply made a cabin and he installed it outside his house and placed some books over there. And he gave it a title, Little Smart Library. And his slogan was, take a book, leave a book. And that was so successful, that was so appreciated that it became a movement. And it spread all over the world. And now in 80 countries, we have millions of little free libraries. In Pakistan, the same thing has been started. In Karachi, the commissioner started this project, and he established many street libraries in the bus stop, in the streets. So it is very difficult to divert our young generation from the internet to the print books.
Well,
I just want to add over, Shiza, I know that you have a question. But sir, I've seen that smart library in Karachi. You know, every time you got off a bus, you know, it's just around the bus stop as well. And the only thing you're going to find out over there is probably jasusi novels and a few magazines, and people will only pick them up to actually take a good look at the pictures as well. When we talk about library, we talk about content. Just like, you know, when we talk about social media these days, and everybody wants to watch some heartful content as well, where they can actually kind of progress onto whatever they have learned from that content as well. So saying that anything which is filled with books or probably jasusi novel is a library, I think is a little bit of disrespect to library.
Actually, jasusi novel are not the part of literature,
Yeah.
our serious literature. And social media, we get some information, mostly disinformation, mostly misinformation.
True.
But the knowledge you can only acquire from a book.
Okay.
Book mean big ocean of knowledge. As you know, it is the acronym of the big ocean of knowledge. Only knowledge can be acquired from a book. If you generally we spend whole the day on social media, we get nothing.
Yeah.
By reading a single book, you get a lot of knowledge.
Exactly.
You start discussion on it. You start discussing it. If a well-read person will never discuss the people or politics.
Yes,
He will
that's
always discuss the books.
Ideas.
Absolutely.
So we lack reading culture. Why? Because we see around us everyone busy in his smartphone, not reading. If there is place some books, I have some spare time. I start reading books. You will start reading books. He will start reading books. Eventually, we will create a culture of reading.
Exactly.
And so we need to revive the culture of reading. And reading means a rich print environment.
Right, right.
Exactly.
And yes, we totally do agree with that. And you know, Shahzad, there are the book lovers actually, and Abid Saab, I think you will agree with me. They are in love with the essence, or I want to say the aura of the library when they walk into it, the smell of the books, or just having the option to choose off from the rack and, you know, just finding your specific book. I think they will, for the years to come, everyone is going to be in love with that concept. But what is your personal opinion about street libraries? Do you think they're manageable?
Yes, sure. Street libraries actually is a term of tiny library. A tiny library is that terms you can place a small shelf inside the street.
Okay.
So that should be based on give a book and take a book concept.
Yeah.
And that gives enough knowledge to the people who lives in the street. So street libraries concept are increasing in Pakistan very rapidly. An initiative was taken by Iftihar Shalwani, as sir mentioned, in the Karachi. The first ever library was established there on the year of founding of the nation, founder of the nation, 144th. So they pay full tribute to the book. So in that case, they established a library in the metropolitan city of Karachi, a street library. That was the ever first library of street. And Mr. Iftihar Shalwani, the then deputy commissioner, also raised the issue that we will increase the street libraries in 6 other districts of Karachi. So that's a good initiative. And in Islamabad, we should also encourage these initiatives.
But do you think youngsters actually do engage with these things? And by youngsters, I'm talking about them specifically because that is when you develop the habit, right?
Exactly.
Of course, the youngster in today's age are, as sir mentioned, that they are engaged with their smartphones rather than to use the library services. So in that case, young can be motivated towards these shelves that these have a very good knowledge. As sir mentioned, that information can only be get from internet, the knowledge can only be get from the books, and books should be there in the street library as well as in other public places.
Exactly. That's wonderful. Thank you
Very
very much for
nicely
saying
said.
that. And you know, I was always the kind of a student who would not be liked by the librarian anyways, because
you
you know,
would
I'll
make
take a
noise?
book and won't come back, you know, for 2 weeks, and you know, I was supposed to give that book back. You know, so it has been a constant phase in my life. But imagine that we actually live in a country where, you know, we have our parents at home at times, you know, and there are a lot of people who call the newspaper raddi as well, and they sell it off. And there are people, hawkers every day in our streets, who will give you 100 rupees for this much stack of newspapers or books for that reason. We have old book shops as well, where we go and sell our old books rather than giving it or gifting it to somebody. We're going to come back and, you know, kind of take your opinion on this. But ladies and gentlemen, we actually have a small report on libraries. Please go ahead, take a look. As you guys will come back, we'll wrap it up.
Libraries play a fundamental role in enhancing the learning experience, providing students with all the materials and services they need to improve their knowledge. Libraries are not the kinds of institutions that social scientists, policymakers and community leaders usually bring up when they discuss social capital and how to build it. Currently, libraries are offering different services aiming to improve the student experience, including a physical space where learners can find various materials such as books, dictionaries and encyclopedias. Library is a place where students can can chill out and relax by listening to music or reading books, a place where students are able to find international magazines and discover what's going on worldwide, and independent study areas as well as collaborative learning spaces where students can meet up with other learners to complete group projects. Library also provides support to various educational programs and develops student skills in locating and using information. In developed countries, libraries are a source of freedom, equality and individual rights.
Individual wealth, that's what we are talking about. But very quickly, I think I'll move on to Dr. Saab and Abid Saab as well to wrap it up. And, I've kind of shared my concern where we have a Raddiwala system over here and everybody wants to sell all the stock of newspapers and books they've had earlier in school, college or whatever and get that 500 rupees and I don't know, have ice cream for that.
Actually, we have so many occasions where we have to wait for hours. Like in clinic, you have to wait for your turn. In metro station, in railway station, in airports, we have to wait for hours.
True.
And the concept of Little Free Library is to install a single or two bookshelves in parks, in such places where everyone, they should not sell their books in a raddi, but to place their books in that places. They can take a book, they can exchange a book, they can share a book.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And the street library means sharing your books with your neighbors. If you have read a book, it is spare from you, you can place it in the street library and you can take some other books from there. It is very economical, it is viable.
Exactly.
You need a shelf, you need two benches, and you can have to select a place, a covered space.
Exactly.
So this culture is prevailing in Pakistan and all over the world. So we need to divert our, first of all, we need to show our children by reading ourselves the books. If I am reading books, my children will also start reading books. If I bring a book and place it in front of them, sometime they will pick up it. So we need to connect them to the books and to show them by reading ourselves the books.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Thank you very much for saying that, Abid Saab.
Actually, we have a bulk of books at our homes.
Yeah.
So why we should spare it to the Kabadia? We should give it and we should donate these books to some shelves in an open space. And these shelves should be prevent from the rainy days as well as. So people should bring it. And this is called awareness. And how can we aware the people? Through your media.
Yes.
And through social media, we can make a campaign that please bring your books and donate these. And when done, completion of books by reading, so you should return it.
Wow.
That's a good idea.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for
Yes.
saying that. And I believe that we are actually the only channel who actually talked about libraries that much as well. We
course.
do
I don't think people care
programs
about
quite
it.
often. I have
We
never
should.
ever seen
We
a
should.
program on television that too about libraries. But thank you very much, Dr. Midrad Saab. Thank you very much, Abid Hussain Saab, for
Thank you,
joining
sir.
us. Wonderful to have you. Wonderful to be in conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, a beautiful surprise for you all. Please, zara tasveerein dikhao. Happy birthday to you. May you have
Oh,
many more.
okay.
Happy birthday, dear
Someone
Hadiza
raided my
Hashmi.
Instagram.
Happy birthday to you.
So sweet.
Happy Hajj Day.
Thank
Siza,
you
may you
so
get
much.
prosperity, success, and whatever you wish
Thank
for
you
in
to you.
life.
Thank you so much.
And there's another birthday announcement as well. So Miss Iram,
Oh,
she
yes.
happens to be on the news desk as well. So Miss Iram, a very happy
Happy
birthday
birthday,
to you
Iram.
too as well. We have heard that you've actually served breakfast for everybody downstairs as well, but we've kind of missed out on that. Happy birthday to
But
you.
the best
May you
part
get
is-
prosperity and success.
Yes, and she's always there when you need coffee.
Alhamdulillah, yeah. That's absolutely true. So if we do not have domestic help,
She's very
ladies and gentlemen,
resourceful.
she always makes sure that she carries her own bottle of coffee, and she always happen to share it with us as well. So Miss Iram, happy birthday to you too. For all of those people who are celebrating their birthday today, happy Hajj Day to all of you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are definitely heading out, and very shortly you will be listening to the latest update from news as
Exactly.
well. Till the next time, if you have any suggestions, feedback, questions, make sure to write to us on our social media pages with the name of.
Well, this morning,
And the repeat of this show you will be able to catch at
5 past midnight. Till the next time, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Take care.